Hi, I'm so excited for you to join this webinar. This is the webinar that we're putting on for users of Discover, people who are in there every day. This is paralegals, litigation support, active reviewers, even lawyers who are kind of in there actually doing the dockery for themselves. And our goal today is to go through basically what Claira is and how it helps 10x what you're able to do with your time inside of Discover. So I'm excited to get into this. My name is Lucas Fraser. I'm one of the founders of Claira, and I want to go through a couple slides and then we'll dive straight into the actual product itself. And I'll walk you through exactly how we're making everything more efficient for actual day-to-day users of Discover. So what Claira is essentially an AI workspace pane that works right inside of Discover with you. It works in the same documents as you. You can run it across multiple documents, and you can essentially have it answer any prompt that you put in about any document, either one at a time or at scale. And then I'll then write it to a field in Discover so that you can continue to use it going forward. So you could think of this as, especially for first pass review, you can get this done so quickly. You can hand the case over to the lawyers with the first pass already done, with the relevance review, with an issue coding, with organization already done, as opposed to giving it to them blank and having them start from there. It's built right into Discover. Like I mentioned, it plugs in. It literally takes 15 minutes to deploy inside of your environment. And then you can connect it to cases as you need using the Nuix's security features and activate it per case. And then it reads the Nuix database. And so it's not replicating anything. There's no implementation, no deployment beyond just typing in a few values. And it writes to existing fields and it works right where you work. So it's really, really helpful and quick to deploy. And you don't have to learn a new platform. You're just adding new skills to the platform you already use. So we use this for a ton of different workflows. To give a couple examples, we often do objective coding. 9 out of 10 cases, we're using this for objective coding. And that's what we're hearing from our clients as well. Relevance review, doing that first pass relevance review or privilege. If you're doing investigations or data breaches or redaction, identifying and extracting PII or personally identifiable information can be really, really helpful. Of course, you can do summaries and factual summaries related to your matter. You can build chronology, so you have your key documents, pull out what I need to know across these documents and compile it into one chronology. You can confirm human coding. So let's say you've got your production, it's ready to roll out. You just want to do a last pass for privilege and maybe a double check to make sure everything in there is actually relevant. Run a quick QC review. And then translation is also huge. And so I'll show most of these examples. If you're working in a multi-language data set, you can review it in English with the help of Claira and it will understand effectively any common language. So really, really cool. Tons of workflows that you can run. And we like to group them into 3 big categories conceptually. These aren't features. These are just, the way to think about the types of work you can do with Claira. First is organization. And this is really huge, especially for kind of litigation support and reviewers, is the ability to add missing metadata and augment metadata. Things like document dates, titles, categories. These are things that when they're missing, they impede your review. And for production, you often need to code them anyway. And so if documents have been scanned, you can have Claira generate and identify dates, titles, author, recipient, category, all that information. You can also organize into project or contract or individual specific groups. So you can segment your data for more efficient review or assignment to different experts, whatever it might be. And then, of course, translation and language. And then we have decision type tasks. This would be supporting better legal decision making through relevance, issues, privilege, like I mentioned, the PII, maybe conceptually related documents, or just anything that I think the human should take a deeper look at can be very helpful. And so we like to group these into just decision support and then distillation. So I have my core set of document. What does each one prove? How does each one matter? What's in it for me? So what about each document? So you can take the core information as it relates to your matter and pull it out from each document. And then you can use insights to compile that all together into a single output if you need. One of the core philosophies we have, which is the foundation of why you can trust Claira's work, is the fact that it is highly defensible. And we've just designed this for consistency, auditability, defensibility since day one. And so when you do a task like a relevance review across your database, you're not just saying, find me the relevant documents. You're applying the same prompt, the same kind of decision criteria to each document in your set on its own, independent of the rest of the database. You say, here's what we're looking for. Here's what would make a document relevant. Is this document relevant, for example? It'll say it's yes, no, give its justification, write that to the field, and then forget that document, both from a security standpoint and from a review standpoint. Forget that document and move on to the next one. And so each document gets reviewed using the same criteria. You're not building a database. It's not learning over time so that the last document is reviewed with more scrutiny than the first. Every document is reviewed in exactly the same way. And you know that every document has been looked at to assess these criteria, not just the ones that match some, TAR statistical similarity score, not just those that have certain keywords that the AI determined. Every document in your set can be reviewed consistently in the same way. And so it's very easy to explain the decisions made or catch decisions that you don't necessarily agree with and refine the prompt. And so it's very defensible. And we have this always read every document approach, this no stone unturned approach, which is really helpful to understand. Around that, we've built different tools and workflows that help you get maximum value out of your use of Claira. Case context, drop in statement of claim, statement of defense, any of the pleadings and related information, maybe a chronology, maybe something that's come out of Harvey or Legora or co-counselor, these other tools that gives you the theory of the case and our approach and our perspective on the case. Drop that in and generate the case context, which is essentially the information that the AI needs to be able to generate better prompts, and also something that you can share with your team. From there, you generate a bulk scan prompt and run this across your set. I'm looking for XYZ. Tell me if this document contains it. You're going to get a per document response. Yes, no, relevant, not relevant, etc. Written to each document, and your review is complete. And this is generally quite quick. We're talking thousands of documents an hour. And then you can take those outputs from each of the documents and either use a additional prompt to pull out more information for each one, or take the kind of output of your relevance scan and turn it into an insight, compile this information together into a single output. And so you go core documents, generate a single case context document. You take that and review the database, finding the relevant set. And then you take the relevant set and compile it into an insight. So you have a single output. This is a core workflow. There's lots of other ways you can use this, but this is the way that we like to move cases through here. And so if you think about doing AI review, the way we tend to advise on this is you're getting a finished first pass, not an exhaustive review complete. You're getting, here's the documents that we find likely to be relevant, review these, do some sampling, confirm the decision making. If this is legal review, if this is production documents especially, you should always go through a second or third human review as well, and be working with Claira as you go through this process. So now let's get in. I wanted to show you some of these workflows. I'm moving from case context to review to insight, and then also some of those other little use cases that we have available. So here we're in Nuix, and as you can see, my central panel here is the Claira panel. There's a couple different modes. We have an agent mode, for example, where I can ask it to explain the document I'm looking at right now. And it's going to read this current document that I have right here, the current document that's selected, and provide me a bit of information about it. I can save this output to any of my fields that are available, or I can just leave it available in this kind of agent chat where the rest of my team can see it. I can also make private chats, etc. Lots of ability to collaborate or keep your work product to yourself. And at any point, you can ask the agent a question from the top bar here. The mode that I'm going to start with is the case context, because as I mentioned, you can take a document, any document. Generally, you want the core information that's most relevant to the case, and you can generate this case context. You just say, grab these documents, add to context, and you generate it. I won't go through it now for the sake of kind of time and simplicity, but we started in this particular example with this FAQ document. So not a statement of claim, not a statement of defense, just like here's some information that you need to know about this case. And it pulled out the key parties and individuals, the background and timeline of the dispute and the matter, the key issues, the central issues and potentially relevant documents, privilege information. So who are the firms involved in this matter? What else might we need to know about privilege? And then a bit of information about the data set, additional notes, etc. So we have just some core information about our data set. I can export this as a PDF, send it to my team, either as a draft or an improved version, and they get a nice, simple, well-formatted document like this with references to the documents that went into this case context. It always references the documents involved here. And if it's in draft mode, it says that it's a draft. Once I've approved it, as you can see, it's approved here. It can't be edited by anybody by accident. This is locked in. This is our confirmed case context. So Claira has the confidence going forward that this is final. We can now use it in the rest of our tasks. So if we come back into the prompt lab, you can see we have a basic summary prompt here. To give an example of how the basic functionality works, I could scan this document, this one over here, this email, and see that we have a nice simple summary of this document. I can apply this to the AI summary field. You can see it's successfully applied that response. I'll just switch documents to come back to it. And there we go. We've got a nice summary of that document written to that field. This is editable. I can make it non-editable. I can include this in my exports, in my Excel downloads, search across it, all that stuff. So it works just like any other field. In this particular example, it's a memo field. But what I want to do is use my case context to do a relevance review. And so rather than writing a full relevance prompt here, because maybe I'm not so confident to do that, or maybe I just want to save some time, we have the quick start menu here, which includes a couple resources. One is our prompt library, and this is example prompts for things like objective coding, author, recipient, dates, titles, all that information. General prompts include things like summary, chronology, translation, etc. Lots of helpful templates in here. But we also have the prompt generator, which allows me to say, here's my case context, relevance review with issue tagging. I can say I just want a relevance review prompt with issue tagging, and I can generate that prompt. And this will apply Claira best practices and our case context to answer and generate a prompt for the task that I'm requesting here. And so it takes a couple seconds to kind of reason over that context. So you can see the prompt that came out from the generator here. We have determined if the document is relevant to this controversy. A document may be relevant if, so we have some potential relevance indicators. We also wanted to identify certain issues in the document per my request. And so we have our issue tags here. Each one has underscores separation, so I can quickly copy this value and search across my responsive set to find which documents are responsive without having to do any fancy search syntax. And then for each output, I want my output format. So if it's relevant, I want my relevance decision. And then if it's relevant, I want an issue tag, justification, and short excerpt. So let's go ahead and try this on a document here that's not relevant and just confirm that it's not relevant. So there we go. And then for a document that is relevant, we might expect to see something that also includes the relevance decision and the issue tags, justification, and excerpts that support the relevance determination. So you can see here it's scanning as image because we have a scan as set to auto. You can scan either on the text, which is faster and uses fewer tokens, or you can scan the actual document content, images, videos, audio files, and natives of all different kinds. So you can actually send the actual document in case there's handwriting or in case it's a multimedia file that doesn't have appropriate extracted text. You can always do that. So here we have our relevance decision. To me, I find this helpful. It's got an issue tag, relevance tag, so I can very easily find that. So now let's switch this over to text mode. So I could just apply this summary to my documents one by one and just loop through the set, or more effective is to start a bulk scan. So I'll grab my selection here and start bulk scan on 90 documents. Here I can see this is going to use 90 tokens. I have 10,000 available on the Pro plan, so that's okay. I can confirm all my details running on text about how long it's going to take. I can choose to write to a certain field. I'm just going to go ahead and use my summary field because I know that's not used for anything. And if I run this as a background processing task, I can start the bulk scan, close my computer, and go do something else during that time. Or I can watch it run in real time with a live bulk scan. It's a little bit faster, but I have to keep my window open. It also allows me to watch the results stream in. So I'll go ahead and start bulk scan, and we'll see a few things happen here. One, we switch over to the bulk scan view, and you can see we're now on task number 10 in this case. So we've done 10 bulk scan tasks, and this one is number 10. We get a little title generated here. I can edit that if I want. And you can see that the documents are already starting to process. And you can see these results streaming in here in this live results section. I can watch whether the documents are responsive or not. I can see my rate and about how long I expect this to take. Each of these documents now has the value SC10 written to it, so I can really easily go back and find the documents that were in this task. And if we look at our task list, history list down here, we can see this particular task, the progress, the history, and I can see the prompt that was used, the fields that were used, etc. So a lot of helpful information, that audit trail generated. You can see in 42 seconds, we just looped through 90 documents, highly, highly efficient. If I pull up my list here and I just go ahead and refresh my summary field, we can now see that all these documents have their relevance decision made. So we've got a relevant document down below and our relevance up top. And so if I could, for example, just pull up my relevant documents by saying yes, rel in this column, and there we go. We've got our relevant document in this set. I can confirm that I agree that this document is relevant and just make sure that I agree with the issue tags and all that other information. And what's really cool is I now have just done my first pass review. I can hand this off to lawyers. I can select these documents and bulk code their relevance value and say, hey, we've done the first pass. Here's our AI first pass. I can also do lots of other tasks using the AI tool. And so that's a relevance review. That's one use case. But if you're in here day to day, one of the most common problems you have is doing document objective coding. And so let's come over here, for example, into our multi-code mode and look at how we can really expedite objective coding. So here, let's say we wanted to do date, title, author, recipient. For this case, I'll just go date and title to start off. We just want to be able to filter these documents. So what I can do is I can say quick start. We'll come into our objective coding, and multi-code allows you to code multiple fields at the same time for one document. So if I want the extract date, I'll just use the date template. I'm going to put this into field 1, and then I'll come into quick start. I'll use my title template and put this into field 2, new field. So now you can see we have our date and our title. And for this example, I don't have a field for this, but you might want to connect for example, a date and a title field for this particular output. And so now we have our date and title. But just to give the example of how this would work, if I wanted to scan this document, maybe I'll choose the image for this document. I can click scan. And you can see over here, we have a June 23rd, 2016. We have a slight title here. It says Letter to President Obama urging a visit to Ukraine. So it kind of identified a title because there's no specific explicit title on this document, but we did get that correct date here, June 23rd, 2016. So I can choose to save this to my fields, or similarly, I can run a bulk scan doing this exact same task across a set of documents. If I wanted to do, we have date and title here now. If I wanted to also add author, insert template, we'll do this in a new field, and recipient. I'm moving quickly, but this becomes a natural process. So extract recipients, insert this template into a new field, and let's just go ahead and do document category as well. Insert template, new field, just selecting random fields so that we can see this output. If we run this across a set of documents, and again, at that speed, if we did 90 documents in 45 seconds, it takes about the same amount of time to loop across documents and output multiple fields. You can see we have our date, our title, our authors. So all of these individual signatures have been identified across these pages, our recipient, the president, and chronology. The type is correspondence. Ignore these titles here, just using whatever fields are available in this example. So you can really quickly pull through objective coding. I could connect fields for date, title, author, recipient, etc., and write directly to those fields. And that's all super helpful looking at that multi-code view. I'll come over and we'll view a couple other examples here. One of the most common challenges in eDiscovery is identifying handwriting. And so if I want to identify whether any of the documents in my set have handwriting, and if so, transcribe that handwriting so it's searchable, I can say, if this document contains handwriting, describe the general type of handwriting in the document, and then provide an itemized list transcription of all the handwriting in the document. So just simple scan like that. I'm of course going to be running this on images. We wouldn't need this from extracted text because the OCR may not catch that handwriting appropriately. But since it's able to read the actual document, it'll be able to pull out all the signatures on this document, for example, itemize those out for my output so that those are searchable. It even can tell each of the signatures whom they belong to without having to read the signature because it can see the context. So we can see all this information here saved on these documents. Another common example would be PII. I need to do my redaction pass at the end of this case. We have an investigation prompt here. Go ahead and insert this template. And so I'll come to another document that maybe has a bit more PII in it. This is an email. It has some email addresses, names, stuff like that. What this does is it's a pretty detailed prompt to say, if there's PII, I want every instance of it, every example, every format, exactly as it appears in the document. So that, there we go, just come over to text, so that we can use it to do find and redact, because we can output this as a single result, comma separated, quote delimited list of all of the PII in the document. So we can import this as a search term family and do our find and redact across the entire database with every variation of every name in there. So it's really, really helpful, really efficient for doing find and redact or just disclosing what information is in a database. Another quick example that we have is a chronology. So if we want to use a chronology summary, so this prompt right here is just basically identify what's happening in this document in a single sentence and output it with the date at the beginning and then the basic chronology summary. I can grab, let's say that I've found my 5 key documents in the case. I could just run a bulk scan on these 5 documents to generate my chronology. Again, this will be really quick. I'll write this to the chronology field. And this is when we can take this single output, the chronologies of these documents, and turn them into what we call an insight. So there we go. We're getting our chronologies successfully written to those fields for our 5 documents. You can see those results stream in. There we go. And this is bulk task 11, summarizing the document, providing dates, 5 documents. That's great. So all these documents have task 11, but I don't even need that. I can come over to the insights. And what this does is it takes a set of documents, AI outputs, and responds to a question about it. So here I can either start from my current selection, which includes those 5 documents, and point it at a summary. So I can take a subset of a task, for example, and use it for that. Or I can grab a bulk task. And I just want to start from 11, the one I just did, the 5 documents in that task. It knows what field has been written to. And I just say, provide a bullet point chronology in chronological order of these documents. And that's going to take my 5 AI outputs here, put them in order, and organize their chronologies into a bullet pointed list. And it's really helpful because it keeps the reference to each of the documents. If it has documents on the same dates, it might deduplicate them and organize them into a single bullet point. And all of those document references are highlighted in bright green. If I like the summary, I'm satisfied with it, I can download this summary as a PDF, and I have in one click a simple chronology that I can send to my team, that I can drop into my files. And it's also available in my case to the rest of my team. So that's very helpful. I can also take this chronology and let's just say, put this into a single paragraph for an email to my client. I just want to grab something that I can drop into an email to the client and send it off to them and say, here's the basic order of facts and events. Can you just run this over and confirm it, for example? And we're doing this on 5 documents, but you can do it on many, many more documents. There we go. A nice simple summary. I can copy this, paste it into my email and send it off. And so there are tons of other use cases of Claira, but when you're thinking of the stuff that alleviates pain points day to day, the objective coding, the first pass relevance, the chronology summaries of your data set, all this stuff can be really, really helpful as you use Nuix day to day. I hope this has been interesting and helpful to you, and I look forward to speaking to you about bringing Claira into your case. Thanks.